Hello. I thought I'd make another video. Game week 5 coming up. I've got quite a lot of things to talk about. I think I want to talk about just a quick recap on game week 4, plans for game week 5, maybe a look at wildcard 6 plans, and I've got a bunch of kind of questions about DEFCONs and whether you should permaplay them or not. And how long to stick with a player, long-term data versus short-term form, and a bunch of other thoughts, some charts to go through. So I'm just going to kind of waffle and see where we get. So far game week 4, I've been doing kind of average. I did kind of bad game week 4. I've had 2 good game weeks, 2 bad game weeks. I'm ranked 5 mil, which is like right smack bang in the middle. I've had some good luck, some bad luck, according to this, kind of up and down. And if I was to wildcard today, half my team I'd keep and half the team I'd get rid of. So I'm kind of like right smack bang in the middle, kind of average at the moment, which is fine-ish. Rather be doing better, but it is what it is. It's been a tricky start to the season to figure out how, what to do, where to go, which players to go for and stuff. It's been difficult to predict, so I don't know, happy enough for now. Game week 5, I'm not going to wildcard. That's the first question. Can I bring my wildcard forward? I don't think so, because the players that I want to get rid of have good fixtures, and the players I want to bring in have bad fixtures. So like Watkins has got Sunderland, the Nottingham Forest boys have got Burnley. This Salah and Verts duo have got Everton, and according to like Rob T's data and stuff, it looks like that's probably going to be one of the most highest scoring games of the week. So, and then I want to bring in Haaland, but he's got Arsenal, and some of the other players have got tough fixtures. Semenyo's got Newcastle, so not going to be wildcarding this game week. Just going to run it out one more game and hope for the best. So wildcard 6, I think though, is likely because a lot of the players I want to bring in have good fixtures that week. Like I'm particularly interested in, obviously Haaland's got Burnley, but I'm interested in teams that aren't in Europe but are also half decent, like Bournemouth, Everton, Man United, Brighton, and Everton's got West Ham, Man United's got Brentford, Bournemouth got Leeds. It's a good jumping on point. Brighton have got Chelsea, which is a bit trickier, but then they've got a nice run afterwards. So, wildcard 6 I think is likely. Captain is Salah. I don't feel great about it. He's been a bit off the boil. Thankfully, he got goal and assist yesterday in the Champions League, so that makes it feel kind of a bit nicer now. Again, it's kind of a best of a bad bunch. He's been a bit quiet. It's the early kickoff, which the Gandhi thing doesn't bother me that much. I made a video, but I don't think there's any kind of superstition or any kind of trend there. Like, I made a video about it once, and I don't think there's anything in the data that suggests that the early kickoff is you get less goals or anything like that. There could be some nuance to it, like the fact that Liverpool played in the Champions League Wednesday night and then they're playing Saturday morning. That there is probably going to be fatigue there, and I don't think Everton played midweek, so the Everton have had a whole free midweek there, so they might be more, more refreshed. But I just think I'm just going to go for Salah. He's just the best of a bad bunch. I mean, who else am I going to go for? Watkins. Bring in Haaland. He's got Arsenal. Gyökeres got Man City. Bruno's got Chelsea. I've got these guys. I mean, maybe Pedro against Man United, but he's just played in the Champions League. Man United might be more refreshed. I don't know. I think I'm just going to go for Salah. And there is a question that keeps emerging so far this season of like, how much weight do you put on long-term data versus short-term form? How long do you stick with a player before you give up on them? And for me, I think the answer to that question is basically depends on how long a player's been good for, how long their season, their data goes on for. So like a player like Salah, he's been great for coming on a decade or so, or like 8 years or something. And he's been really good. And just last season, he got 300 points and stuff. So it's like the fact that he's had 4 quiet games, and even in the quiet games, he still managed to get points, kind of makes me think yeah, it's probably not quite time to give up, even though I don't have the vibes on it. It's like and thankfully he's just shown what he can do in the Champions League. So it's like, yeah, okay, I won't give up on him just yet. And he is kind of posing a question of like, do you keep him on wildcard as well? Do you go for Haaland and Salah? Because at the moment I'm just Haaland, but maybe. So he's, yeah. There's a question there about how long do you stick with players like that, and it's the same with Watkins. He's had like 2 years of like good numbers under Emery, and then suddenly being bad now. How long do you stick with him? Last season there was Mbomo. He had like 5 game weeks where he blanked for 5 in a row or something like that. Had very low data, and I came off him, and then he suddenly, as soon as I sold him, he started doing well again. So there's a feeling of like, with the solid players who have good data, you probably want to wait maybe 6 game weeks, up to 6 game weeks, 5 or 6, something like that. Especially if there's nothing necessarily fundamental has changed. You stick with them for a bit longer. Whereas some of the other players who are unproven, like maybe Wirtz, he's not really proven in the Premier League yet. We don't know, and his data's like what, 0.3-ish. He's not. You know, somebody said he might be like an Odegaard character, and it's like he might be. Maybe I'd be sooner to come off him. Obviously, I'm going to give him one more run out, but I'll probably ditch him. So it's that kind of idea. And so players who are less proven, maybe I'd only give them 3 game weeks or something, 2 or 3. Yeah, so that's my feeling. So, but it is like with players like Watkins. So if you're not on wildcard, you might be looking at Watkins and thinking, well, do you keep him all the way through Sunderland, Fulham and Burnley? Or do you ditch him? Especially because that's approaching 7 game weeks. That is a question that I'm keeping him for this game week, and then I'm wildcarding. So it's not a question that I don't have to face that question, because I'm not going to keep him for the next 2. I don't think so, unless I fancy just a punt. He'd have to get a hat trick or something. So yeah, Watkins is tricky. It depends on what's happening at Villa. Sometimes I get the feeling there's a bit of a rot at Villa. There's something not right. So, don't know. That's a tricky one. There might be some other circumstances. But yeah, that's the general vibe though. 5 or 6 game weeks for the good players and less for others. So Salah cap. Not worried about Gandhi. Well, nah. We're just gonna go. He's just the best of a bad bunch. And then the only other interesting thing with team selection wise is, so there's the kind of peripheral pieces. So I think like Watkins, these 5 here, I'm just going to play. My model has them pretty high. Senesi's playing. I'm going to play Sells, probably Rodon. But there's a kind of question of like, you get to like your 2nd and 3rd defender, your 6th and 7th attackers, maybe the 5th, 6th and 7th attackers. And it's how do you know which formation to play and who's better than the others and stuff. My model has Tarkowski quite high. It's got Rodon quite high as well, which I've been trying to kind of work on my model. I don't always trust the numbers, and Rodon, I'm not 100% trustworthy of those numbers. I may have tweaked it at some point, but you know, a lot of these players don't have data from last season either. So but Tarkowski being up there is interesting because he's basically up there purely because of his DEFCONs. Like he's got a super high DEFCON rate, 68%. It's actually like that's the number I've given it. I've been geeking out on spreadsheets like mad recently. Tarkowski, he was about 65% last season. That's not his actual rate. That's just the rate that he was getting C-bits, and then I've converted it to a percentage. I think that's what I've done there. But I've done that this season as well. So he's getting them again. He's getting them even C-bits even more this season. So like a 70% rate. And then he's off to play Liverpool. And Liverpool are a team who, so far this season for centre-backs, are the team that are notching up the most C-bits. They're generating the most C-bits in their opponents, Liverpool. So it's a great fixture for Tarkowski, and it was the same last season. They were like the fourth highest for that. So you got a player like Tarkowski who's like almost nailed to get at least 3 points. He's got a 3.4 floor, maybe 3.5 if Liverpool get 2 goals or not. So he's got a really high floor, but the chance of him getting a clean sheet is next to nil, or very low. Well, pretty low. Chance of getting goals and stuff, but because of that 3-point floor, I think that's why his predicted points are a bit higher than the others. But my instinct is to not play him because it's Liverpool, and I think there's a question of E. Steve, for instance, he's playing Nottingham Forest. His DEFCON rate is good. He is there, and he's averaging about 10 CBITs. So that gives him like a 50% rate issue. 53 I've got him at the moment. 10 CBITs a game, if this is correct. By the way, double check everything just in case I might make errors. But that's where I've got him at the moment. So his DEFCON rate's all right. He might be playing a Nottingham Forest side that's under Ange now, so they might be a bit better, more attacking. So he's got every chance of getting DEFCONs. And then he's also got a little bit of a chance of a clean sheet as well. He's playing at home against Forest. You never know. He's got a bit of a chance of a clean sheet. Probably not much attacking threat. So my hunch is that something that's I'm often coming across is this pattern of some players have high floors but low ceilings, and other players have low floors but high ceilings. And if there's choice of how do you decide that? And at the moment, I'm just kind of taking it case by case. But Tarkowski's got a high floor but a low ceiling. But Steve maybe slightly lower floor, but I still fancy he's probably got a chance of getting DEFCONs. But then he's got more likely to get a clean sheet against Forest than Tarkowski is. So I'm probably more likely to do something like that. Yeah. So Tarkowski, I just think he's a 3.5 player. But that's it. I mean, he could get a goal. You never know. But it's just, I think these guys have got higher ceilings. I'm probably going to play Rodon. That feels fine. And then the Sales and E. Steve thing, I think is a bit kind of spreading my bets. Murillo might be out, so that might just be solve it anyway. But even if Murillo's fit, I still might spread my bets with these two. So that's kind of a thinking at the moment. Yeah, I'd probably spread my bets. So yeah, might actually play 2-4 mils in my back line. But then there's the question of well, are any of these defenders, let's say Murillo is fit, or even Tarkowski on a 3.5 or something, are any of these defenders better than these strikers here, Yeremy, Muniz and Xhaka, which is probably not a question that many people are having to ask because these are a bit low owned. But you may have a question like this. And these guys are they've got no DEFCON chances, but it's pure ceiling. It's Yeremy Muniz, Muniz might not even start. I don't even know if Raul will come back, and Yeremy, who knows? But it's the ceiling potential. Same with Xhaka. Xhaka's got a good chance of DEFCON, but his ceiling's probably lower than these two. These guys are in around the box. This guy's a defensive midfielder. So, I mean, Xhaka's DEFCON chances. What does my model say about those three? I think it's got Xhaka quite high. So Xhaka's quite high, 4.2. It's higher than Watkins, although Watkins on 4.1. Watkins is only lower because his minutes as a slight dent. I think last season he missed a few games, so there's still a slight, who knows, maybe he'll get benched, but I don't think so. Muniz is actually the highest on 4.96, but he's got a 50%. What's his name? Start rate, and Yeremy Pino is 4.4. Again, his start rate is 50%, but that's just because he only started one, didn't start the other. So they're all quite similar. Moon is probably the highest. They're all pretty similar. So I'm probably just gonna have to use my hunches to hunch which one to go for. Yeah, so they're all quite similar. I think I'm gonna have to just kind of figure it out case by case. I think, and I'm probably gonna go at the moment. I'm gonna go for the ones that have slightly higher ceilings, and I also want to do at some point. What I want to do is look at all these predicted point scores, and then actually create a breakdown of where those points come. So every player has a chance of getting points from different routes of points: appearance points, assists, goals, clean sheets, DEFCONs, and each one of those points, every player has a percentage chance of getting those points. And I want to be able to break it down so you can see, okay, so this is where this player's predicted points are coming from, and you can kind of see all the thing to get a better idea of it. But I haven't done that yet. It's just I don't know where people get the time to do all this stuff. So I haven't done that yet. So that is my thinking though on my team selection. Yeah, probably something like that. But I hate benching Xhaka. I really like Xhaka. He's just such a kind of, he's had like a 4 and a 4 and a 5 in the last few games. 3, 4, 4, 5. He's just, I don't know, he's such a kind of like reliable points I feel like I'm going to get from him. But yeah, we shall see. So that's my kind of thinking on that. I mean, just having a look at this. Actually, one sec. Let me just check something. Sorry, I thought I heard somebody in my garden. It must have been somebody else. What are we doing then? So a quick look at the DEFCONs while I'm here. These two are probably skewed by their minutes, so forget them too. So these are the DEFCON leaders by the way I've done it, which is I've basically taken their C bits per 90 or C Brits per 90, then converted it to a percentage chance that they're going to get DEFCONs in any game. And I've kind of tried to combine it with their, get the average of that and their last season's DEFCONs, if I can. This chap called Mukiel from Sunderland is up there, but I think he's just covering for Ballard. I believe he's got really high rate, but I believe he's only covering for Ballard at the moment. He's a right back, so I don't know. You might want to double check that. Matt's wife is up there, but he's a DM playing right back at the moment. I don't know how secure he is. Ryan Christie's very good, but he's coming back from an injury. I don't know how nailed he is at the moment. And then you got Tarkowski, Senesi, Caicedo, the ones you'd think. Ekdal ahead of Steve is interesting. I think some people have pointed that out, that it might be he's the one to go for rather than Steve. But then Steve's not that far behind, so I'm not sure. We don't know. It might even out or change. So there's that. Lacroix's up there. Interesting. Hartman, he's Burnley as well. He's a fullback. In general, with the defenders, I'm inclined to go for centre-backs rather than fullbacks, because fullbacks tend to get rotated more often. They tend to do more running and need more rests or get benched early. And you definitely need players who are going to play per the full 90. And in fact, I've just kind of noticed a potential problem with what I've got here, because I think these are all per 90. These are all per 90. I need to run this through each player's minutes per start as well. So this is, you almost want to forget these fullbacks, because if he's playing 70 per 90, then he's not going to be getting DEFCONs at 59%, 60%. It's going to be less than that. So yeah, just a note on that. Tyler Adams, if they're playing 90 though, you can probably trust these numbers a bit more. Tyler Adams looks good. I've never even heard of that guy. Omar Aldreti. Some of these might just be skewed by minutes. Elliot Anderson, Steve, Xhaka, Van Dijk. Irogbinum, I don't think he's playing much, is he? I don't think he's one. Agbadu, Rodon. So they're the leaders. And this is who's creating the most C-bits in their opponents. So just in general, let's have a look at the all, see if this still works. In general, Bournemouth are still up there. They were up there before. Aston Villa being up there is interesting. So that's good for Xhaka and Sunderland. Maybe that's their problem. They're just giving the balls away too often. Newcastle, Chelsea, Liverpool. Newcastle, a bit of surprise. They haven't been that attacking. But again, maybe that's why they've got low XG, because they're giving the ball away. I don't know. I'm just making theories up. Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, Fulham, Tottenham. These are the teams at the top. For centre-back specifically, which is interesting, Liverpool at the top, Bournemouth again, Villa still up there for centre-backs, Fulham, Man United, Fulham. So Fulham are up there. Fulham were up there for the DMs as well. So you know, for overall they're maybe a bit lower, but for DM specifically and centre backs, Fulham create a lot of C-bits for their opponents. Man United and all the rest. Teams at the bottom, promoted teams, Burnley, Man City and Arsenal are usually quite low. Leeds, Sunderland up there is a bit of a surprise, but and Palace were good last season, but they're low this season. So yeah, just little patterns. I'm still trying to figure out why one team generates more C-bits than another and what the actual pattern is. As I said in a previous video, it's probably partly to do with possession and just generally teams that attack a lot and have a lot of possession and just flying the balls into the box all the time is going to generate a lot of defensive contributions from the opponents. But it's not always as simple as that, I don't think. When you look at like Arsenal and Man City, they're less wasteful. Although I say that, Man City are up here with DMs, but Arsenal and the promoted teams just don't have much of the ball to be able to challenge the defence that much. So it's tricky to say. But yeah, Fulham, Tottenham, Palace, Brentford, Man City. I generally think, I'm just waffling in this video, I might go on for a bit. I generally think with the DEFCONs, if you've got a player who's quite a high rate in general, I probably wouldn't overthink it. I might just play him, and because they'll probably get DEFCONs in most games, and even in the easy games, they've still got a chance. It's not like they got zero chance against DEFCONs. It might just go down a bit, and it's a bit of a lottery. So it might be the case you just don't overthink it. Just pick some players who've got good DEFCON rates and hope for the best. So that's that. Yeah. Anyway, that's game week 5. Moving forward. So I wanted to talk about Wildcard 6 and a bunch of other kind of thoughts about the game. And yeah, trying to figure out, again, kind of like meta questions, 4 at the back, 5 at the back, all that kind of stuff. Other questions about the game. This is, if I was going to wildcard, hopefully you can see that. My head's not in the way. If I was going to wildcard, I think I'd go into something like this. Let me use this because my head might be in the way. Something like this. I mean, so Senesi, Lacroix, Tarkowski, Rodon, Virgil, Raya, yeah, where to start? So the 5 at the back thing, or 4 at the back. Last video I made a little bit of an error, and I should put a warning on all my videos that there could be errors, and so double check everything. I actually double counted the DEFCONs. So the reason why the DEFCON players were coming out a bit higher was because I double counted them. I've corrected that now. It didn't make a huge amount of difference. The DEFCON players still come out pretty high. But if I'm wildcarding like 6 to 31, these are the leaders. These are the players you want to get in. Haaland, Salah at the top. Semenya's up there. João Pedro. And then, so basically, a lot of these defenders are still up there. Lacroix, Timber, maybe not, but Van Dijk, Diakarte's up there. Senesi, Gay, Munoz, Tarkowski. And in terms of value, they're the ones that have the best value. Lacroix, Diakarte. Diakarte might be worth a punt. I haven't really looked at him yet, but maybe he's as good as Senesi. I've been kind of not thinking about him. I don't know how nailed he is, or if he's injured or something. But Senesi, these are the value picks. And when I say value, I've actually been. This video is going to go on for ages. Got so much to talk about, but I've been tinkering with the value metric as well. I mentioned it a while ago. There's a great video by Midnight Mule on value, and it kind of challenged my perception of value a lot. And so I still don't know. But basically, instead of just doing points per million and just thinking, well, if it's around about 0.6, if it's above 0.6 is good, below it's bad. It's not quite as simple as that, I don't think. And so now, for now, I don't know if this is right or not, but I've just curved that line a bit. So if a player is 15 million now and their value is over 0.4, that's good. I consider that good rather than 0.6, because it's rare that a player who's 15 million, their value will be 0.6 or higher, because 15 million is such a high price that it's gonna skew it. And then the same with the defenders. The defenders always have high value, but that's because they're cheap. So basically, I've just got this kind of like slightly curved line now that I'm using, and then seeing if a player is above or below that line. So who knows if it's right or wrong, but it's just, I don't know. I'm trying it out. It might be a bit more accurate. But we can see, so now it's like Lacroix, Timber, but put a pin in him. These defenders are coming out as the best value. There's a couple down here, Rodon and Mukiel, however you pronounce his name. So so the 4 at the 5 at the back thing, I still think it's worth looking at these defenders. My thinking is, at the moment, I'm probably still going to have at least one 4 mil defender because they're just really good. I just love it. There's a lot of these little 4 mil defenders and they feel good. They're doing quite well defensively at the moment. Leeds and Burnley and Sunderland. So I think I'm going to keep one at least. And also, I like the fact that Rodon, I like Senesi, Lacroix and Tarkowski, and Rodon rotates with those three really well. So let me look on my one. Leeds are here. Basically, God, I've got so many bloody things. Where's my thing I was going to show you? So this is Lacroix, Senesi and Tarkowski. This is their fixtures. And if I was going to rotate one of these out each game week, you know, you've got Tarkowski's got, well, it's not starting in 5, but Lacroix's got Liverpool in 6. There's Tarkowski's got Man City in 8. Lacroix, Arsenal in 9. Senesi, Man City in 10. So you kind of you want somebody who's got a good fixture in 6, and then 8, 9, and 10, but not 7, something like that. And then you look at Rodon, and Rodon's got 6. He's got Bournemouth at home, which is, you know, maybe not great, but it's okay. Bench him against Tottenham, and then he's got Burnley, West Ham, and Brighton. And it's like, well, that's not too bad. I could just rotate Rodon in with those. You know, I'm not sure if there's a better rotation. I haven't found one. So I like Rodon now. So I'm probably going to have at least, so the 5 at the back. I'm probably going to have him in, and then I could still play him if I have to anyway. And then it's the fourth defender who I go for. I mean, Senesi, I think everyone's going to go for him. Some people are going for like Gabriel. The thing with Gabriel, so my model has Gabriel. He's up there, but he's not as high as the others because his DEFCON rate is just so low. And I guess that's just making. He's up there. He's not miles behind, but then in terms of value as well, because he's 6.1, it's not worth it. If you're going to go for a 6 mil, I think you should go for Van Dijk. That's my thinking, because he's like almost 13, 14 points better off than Gabriel. You get DEFCON at a much higher rate. I mean, his DEFCON rate is, last season it was about a third of every game. This season he's closing in on. I've got him at a 76% rate. Pardon me. That's that is not his actual rate. That's just me converting that 12.5 to what I think he will probably get. So at the moment he's averaging about 50%. So I'd be more inclined to go for Van Dijk. He's also, I would think, more nailed than Gabriel, just because Liverpool don't have. Where are they? Liverpool don't have that many centre backs. Got Konate, Gomez, and then these two, Leone and Reece Williams. He's a bit more nailed. Whereas Arsenal this season, they've got this Hincapi and Mosquera guy who could probably pretty easily come in. Timber and Calafiori and Ben White can all play centre back as well. We just seen Rice get rotated out. I just think it just feels like it might be the season of rotation this season, and especially for some of these bigger teams like Arsenal. And I think there's a tiny chance, maybe once every 6 games, once every 8 games, Gabriel might get rested. It's just my hunch now. That's a small worry, but I just don't. I feel like it's, Van Dijk slightly more nailed is my guess. So I would prefer the combination of, like, if I'm going to do it, Raya and Virgil van Dijk rather than I don't know, Alisson and Gabriel or something like that. So I like Van Dijk. I think so. I mean, Liverpool's defence has been a bit shaky so far this season, but I would have thought they'd get it back together. Not sure. Put a pin in Virgil, but these three I like. Yeah, I've seen a few without Tarkowski, but I still think I would just set and forget him. I think so. I mean, who are people going for? I don't know. I just Cucurella. You can't trust. He could get rotated as well now. His minutes aren't secure enough. Fabian Schär, maybe. I don't know enough about him. Newcastle are doing quite well. I mean, Munoz is up here. My only slight fear with Munoz is now that Crystal Palace are in the Conference League, it's the fullbacks that tend to get rotated rather than the centre backs. They do the more running. There's just slightly more risk that he might miss a game or even get an early benching, and then you don't get DEFCONs, which he's not getting many anyway. But yeah, I don't know. He's up there. You could go for him, but yeah. So that's my thinking with that anyway. And Lacroix's just really high. He just keeps coming out so high compared with even Munoz. Is like he's cheaper and he's higher. Yeah. So I'm just going to trust those numbers, I think, at the moment, which is I don't know, could be foolish. Another thing to say about the defence is one thing. I mean, one of the reasons why I think a lot of people are big at the back at the moment is because we've had loads of clean sheets, but is that likely to continue? So I had a look at, this is the number of clean sheets so far we've had this season. We've had like 9, then 6, and 7, then 10. And then I've compared that to like the 5-year average and the 10-year average. So this is what we normally get. The orange is what we normally get in the 5-year average, and the blue is what we've had this season. So it's just dwarfing what we normally get. This is the 10-year average. Again, it's pretty much the same. This is the number of clean sheets we normally get on average, and this is how many we've had this season. And this is the average number of clean sheets per match day. So, and this is per match day, not game week, because every match day is 10 games. Yeah. And so you can see this is the number of clean sheets. So it started going down a bit in 23, 24. That might have been when they did the added time rule. Was that the added time rule? Slightly more goals. I don't know what happened in 24, 25. Did they go back on it a bit? I don't know. But generally, I always feel like the trend is to get what the Premier League want is more goals if they can. They don't want less goals. They want more viewers, so they want more goals. So you'd think this has come down. So that's probably, basically, my hunch is that that's not going to last. That's going to come down. So, and it's the same with the goals. I looked in the average number of goals per game at the moment. It's slightly less. This might be because I'm doing it goals per game. Maybe it's a different metric, but it's like it is basically less than the average. That's the 5-year average. That's the 10-year average. Not really getting as many goals as you'd normally see. This is the goals per game per match day. That was the season when 23, 24 had a bit more. Comes down again. So we've basically had the least amount of goals per game so far this season. It's a notch below where you'd expect it to be. So, yeah, that's something to think about, which is that I don't think the defensive clean sheet points will be coming in quite as much as it has been. Yeah, so that's something to bear in mind. What else? Goalkeepers. I mean, I'll keep talking about wildcard 6. I mean, a lot of people are going to go for Raya. There's a chance I won't have any Arsenal defence. And I feel like there's a part of me that feels like that's a bit foolish. But then I'm also kind of thinking, well, the comparisons you make is like with the keepers, it's Raya versus all the other keepers. And with Gabriel, it's Gabriel versus these other defenders. And at the moment, I think these guys are better. I mean, Gabriel's probably better than Rodon, but then I like the Rodon rotation and the fact that he's 4 mil and I don't have to fully commit to 5 at the back. And then Raya versus Pope. I mean, at the moment, Pope is comes out better. So let me just have a look at this. So Pope is Raya's top, but then Nick Pope at the moment he's on like 95% chance of start rate. So I guess last season, maybe he missed a game or something. I don't know. But if I put him at 100%, he's basically neck and neck. Oh, that's Vicario. Well, they're all very similar on points, those three. Basically, effectively, he's neck and neck with Raya for points, and yet he's half a mil cheaper. He's half a mil cheaper, and his fixtures look good. Obviously, in wildcard 6, I'll just have to take the Arsenal one on the chin. But then after that, Forest, Brighton, Fulham, West Ham, Brentford, Man City take it on the chin. Then Everton, Tottenham, Burnley. Fixtures look good. And in terms of form, XGA so far this season, Newcastle are top. Only 4 games. But that's a good record of like 0.2, 0.7, 0.7, 0.5. They do have a good backline. It's very settled. They've got that midfield 3 in front of them. It's really good. Last season, they were 1.2, 13 clean sheets. They've got a good defence. And so Pope might be the one that I go for. But when you're thinking like Raya versus Pope, I'm thinking, well, Pope's cheaper. I may need the money because I'm at the moment, I'm still 0.1 below. I may need the money. So, yeah. And then Pope, it's Raya versus Pope and it's Gabriel versus these lot. And so I may not go with Arsenal defender, which feels weird, but I think that's the right way to think about it. I think so. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. While I'm on the form charts, just having a look. So if you're interested, these are the form charts. XGA over the last 4. Arsenal's up there. Liverpool actually. So Liverpool's defence is getting better. So maybe that is good for Virgil. 0.1 against Burnley. So that was quite good. Bournemouth are good. So Senesi. Maybe so I could go down to a Petrovic in goal. Petrovic is... I don't even know. Where is he? He might be not on here. Maybe I haven't added him. I can't see him here unless I've just gone past him. Possible that I haven't quite added... Oh, no, there he is. There he is there. So he's quite low. That doesn't seem right. I'm sensing an error in my model there with Petrovic. That shouldn't be that low. Maybe it's because his points are coming from last season where he didn't play much. I don't know. But, yeah, I could go to Petrovic, though, if I need the money. Chelsea, good. That's what you'd expect, really. But all their players are going to be rotated, I think. Difficult to get a nailed one. Palace doing all right, surprisingly. I guess they got a pretty settled back line, but they got Europe starting. They could struggle with Europe and a thin squad. Yeah, there's a team there at the bottom. We got Burnley. I mean, Sunderland doing well, which is quite surprising. And then Burnley at the bottom. So Burnley are at the bottom, even though the defence, you might think they're doing all right, but it's like, only conceded 1 against Liverpool, but they are at the bottom. Villa at the bottom. Wolves at the bottom. The 2 Midland teams. Forest at the bottom. Man United still. I mean, this isn't too bad. 1.5, which isn't too bad. So that's that. And then the XG. Man United at the top. But they've had a couple of penalties there. 3.6 against Burnley. But Man United are currently at the top, which is interesting. Maybe they're not as bad as you might think. And maybe they're still... I still want to kind of... Yeah, I've still got a bit of hope of Man United. I think they could be decent. Because, I mean, everybody's given up on them after that Man City game. But it's like, it was Man City, wasn't it? So, yeah, they might still have something to them. Chelsea, as you'd expect, they're always good. Man City are up there. And then the rest, Brighton, Arsenal, still kind of low. That's what they were last season. But, don't know, that seems to be their style. They don't really create that much XG. Brighton, Everton, surprisingly up there. That's a bit of a surprise. And then at the bottom, there's 2 Midlands. Wolves and Villa at the bottom. Burnley at the bottom. Then Sunderland and Leeds. It's what you'd expect from Forest. So these are the teams that are not doing great. So Forest, low XG and low XGA. And then there's West Ham near the bottom as well. Yeah, so that's the charts there. So that's what I'm thinking about that. Up front, I mean, in terms of this meta question of Haaland versus Salah versus neither versus both, if I had to answer it right now, I feel quite settled on just Haaland now. I just think Haaland, he's doing really well. I know he did this last season and then fell off a cliff, but I just don't think that will happen again. I think he's a good player. He's young, and they got Rodri back now, and they got more players, and I think he'll be fine. I don't know. I'm on the Haaland train. I don't have the same vibes as I did last season when I brought Haaland in. It was kind of reluctant, and as soon as he blanked, I was just keen to get rid of him. I regretted bringing him in the first place, but this time I don't. I don't think so. I was nearly bringing him in game week 1, so it's like, yeah, I regret more not bringing him in game week 1. So Haaland and Salah is just Salah. Is just like how much has he got that Salah from last season? At the moment, I'm not on Salah, and he's going to cost me too much money, and I think it's going to be too hard to squeeze him in. But he is Salah, and he could still, what he's capable of, so he might pose a question. Anybody going both, I wouldn't begrudge that. But at the moment, I'm just Haaland. Yeah, that's fairly straightforward for me. A point about the rotation as well. Something I like about this at the moment is I've been rethinking bench boost, because before I was just thinking, well, I'm going to have Dubravka, Rodon, Xhaka, and probably E. Steve. And I was going to find a game where Burnley and Leeds play each other, which is it's a game week 8. Burnley play Leeds. I think Sunderland play Wolves. So that would be a good game week. So if I had E. Steve as well, that'd be a good game week. And I may still bench boost 8. But I really like this idea of, I've said it before, you can either have like a 5mm mid and a 10mm mid, or you can have 2 7.5s and rotate them. And sometimes that actually works out better if you can find a good rotation. EV-wise, it works out better. And so I kind of like the idea of trying to find some rotations and seeing if I can actually get a really decent bench boost out with some like decent attackers. Like if I'm playing 5 at the back, then my bench every week will be 3 attackers. And if I can find a good rotation with a good week where they've got good games, maybe there'd be a higher ceiling there, and it'd be I could actually get a really decent bench. So that's something I'm playing with, but I haven't figured out yet. So I need to kind of look into that next game week, I think. Yeah. And I need to think about whether, again, it's that same kind of ceiling versus floor question of like, do I want to just play it safe and get a load of DEFCON players and just get myself a nice 10, 12 point bench boost and just be done with it because it's nice and secure? Or do I want to go for this higher ceiling, lower floor, kind of take a risk? And don't know. Again, it's kind of case by case. I'm hoping to find somebody who's got a chance of DEFCON and a chance of like a higher, a little bit of a ceiling as well. That's kind of what you want. Maybe a Xhaka, maybe a Paqueta or something. Somebody who's got a bit of a ceiling and a bit of DEFCON, like Bruno or something. So that's just a thought I've been thinking. Yeah. And then like I need to look into these players a bit more. This is just my hunch. If I was going to wildcard right now, I'd probably go for something like this. Grealish, Minter, Semenyo, João Pedro. But I'm not nailed on any of those 4. I mean, Bruno, and not even Xhaka, I don't even know if I would say or no. I just really like Xhaka. Ex-Arsenal player, so that's probably why. But, yeah, I'm not absolutely nailed on these ones, though, either. Like, and something funny about Minter is, like, I'm a little bit nervous about Gabriel's minutes. Like, I think he might miss, like, 1 in 6 or 1 in 8. And yet, I feel quite keen to bring Minter in. And that seems kind of strange, because, like, Brighton are usually rotation crazy. But so it's weird the way my instincts, again, like I contradict myself. Like I said last game week, I think my instinct is, I think it's more the contrarian thing. It's like if everyone's going for Gabriel, no one's going for Minter. Maybe that's what's really making me keen to go for him. Because he's more of a minutes risk Minter than Gabriel, you'd think. So I found that interesting. But Brighton are... The reason why I'm kind of interested in Minter and Mitoma, because according to Transfer Market, Mitoma's like, his only competition on the left wing is Watson, apparently. And Minter's only competition is Solly March and Gruder. I'd need to research all of this, and they don't seem to have any natural attacking midfielders in their team apparently. So it does. I've heard a few other people say this as well, that maybe they actually are more nailed this season than normal. But I'd need to look into who else could potentially play. I mean, Rutter says it could potentially play right wing as well. So I'd need to look into it a bit more. But yeah, but I've got my eye on Minter. I need to look into his XGI as well. And then Grealish, again, I need to look into the data a bit more. Grealish versus Ndai. My hunch is just Grealish is, main character energy, star boy kind of guy. I would fancy him to step up in the big games and get the goals, but I need to look into his data. Maybe he doesn't get as many goals as Ndai. If Ndai is definitely on penalties, then maybe he's the one to go for. If I need money, maybe I'll go to Dewsbury Hall instead. Yeah, I'll look more into all this kind of stuff next game week with wildcard stuff. Yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, one thing to say about price changes, my team value's down to 99.3, and there's a part of me, if you were to ask, like, what do you regret so far from the season, lessons learned and things like this, I mean, it's tricky to say, because you can make good decisions and get no points, and you can make bad decisions and get loads of points, and it's easy to that. I mean, there's some things like Jeremy. I had this narrative of like, well, it's his first home game in front of the home crowd. He might do well and put on a show, and he didn't. That didn't work. But then somebody else might have had the same narrative with Walter. First home game, home crowd, and he does get a goal. And it's like, I've got the narrative, oh, that doesn't work, and somebody else has got the narrative that it did work. And it might have been disconnected to neither. The same with Wirtz and Ekitike. Both come from Bundesliga. Both, big money signings. One goes off, the other doesn't. What's the logic? What's the narrative? It's like, there's just a lot of variance in the game, and you can't really... Why didn't Villa do well this season? Could we have predicted it, or is it just random? I don't know. So, it's hard to say. I can't remember what I was going to say. I was going to link it with the price changes though. So, yeah, one regret though, I kind of feel like, should I have been more bullish on these, more aggressive with trying to change the price, go after the price changes, and team value, because I've looked into this in the past, and I definitely think like 0.1 mil is worth at least 2, maybe 3 points over the course of a season. And I tend to think it's worth going after these, building your team value, because it can mean, you get an extra million. That's like 20, 30 points over the course of a season. And it really does, like, later on in the season, maybe there'll be a time when there's all the premiums are going off and you can get to that extra premium and somebody else can't. And it can mean the difference between a good 20, 30 points. But when I'm just, this season though, at the moment, I'm just going with my intuitions, and my intuitions are telling me, so far I've just been very full on Fabio Borges style and just been waiting. I didn't want to do Gyökeres to Pedro, Watkins to Pedro or something like that, or Wirtz to Semenyo, because I was still happy to keep Watkins, and I still felt like he would come through. Same with Wirtz, I just wanted to be patient with him. I didn't want to kind of have that panicked kind of like rush, join the herd. So at the moment, I'm just sticking with that intuition, and if anything, I may as well just go full on Fabio Borges style this season and just keep going with that and just see what happens as an experiment. So maybe this season I might just not care about team value at all and just see what happens, because I'm just following that intuition at the moment, which is just not play in a kind of a panicked way, just kind of like take my time and just stick with players who I think are good. So it's hard to say if I've got any regrets yet, because it's difficult to know whether things that have gone badly were because of bad decisions or not, So there's that. I think that's all my thoughts. I've been trying to do loads of spreadsheets recently, and I'm getting a bit crazy. loads of little things I wanted to do. Starting to get my model, trying to get it better. I've got like a nailed-ometer I've made now, and I'm trying to get the minutes more accurate and trying to figure out who's the most nailed and who's not. And Bomo being at the top is interesting. He started all 4 games for Man United, 90 minutes every game. He's got competition from Ahmad, but that's about it. So, you know, if you want to go for somebody else other than Bruno, I think Mbomo he might be decent. Anyway, yeah, been looking into that. Nailed-ometer. Oh, this was a question. Sorry, one final thing. Is another question that I find interesting is should you perma-play your DEFCON players? And if you don't perma-play your DEFCON players, does that negate the DEFCON? Because a lot of these players, you know, what's getting added to their points is their DEFCON. Let's say, sorry, burping all the time. Let's say you've got a player who has got a 50% DEFCON rate. And let's say, just hypothetically, all the hardest games, that's when he gets the DEFCONs, and all the easy games, he doesn't get his DEFCONs. But if you bench your player in all the hard games and play him in all the easy games, then he's not going to get any DEFCONs. He might get all his normal. He's just a naked player. If you just strip the DEFCONs off him, he's just a normal player like all the others that don't get DEFCONs, and he's getting just his normal points. He hasn't got his DEFCON extra booster, and so you I think you just have to factor that in to some degree. I haven't actually worked it out yet, but my current conclusion is that I think these players who get DEFCONs, if they get them at about a 50% rate, it doesn't go down to 0 in the easy games and 100% in the hard games. And it's not even as obvious as that. It's a bit more nuanced. Like Man City and Arsenal are actually quite low, so you probably could bench him in those games, things like this. But it doesn't go down to 0 or 100. It just goes down. Maybe they've got a 30% chance of getting DEFCONs in an easy game. So there's still a chance they'll get DEFCONs even in the easy games. And so my feeling with the defenders is that I'm probably, again, going to take it case by case. I may still play some of them in the hard games, but like this game, we can go to bench Tarkowski though. But there's a bit more of a feeling with these DEFCON defenders, similar to the goalkeepers, where a cheaper goalkeeper can sometimes outscore a premium keeper because they catch it up on save points and bonus points. And it's similar with these DEFCONs where the big monster hauls are kind of like Senesi versus Newcastle at home. It's kind of risky. You don't know. You're not super confident in a clean sheet there. But if he does get a clean sheet, that's the kind of game where he could get like a 10, 15 pointer monster haul. And usually with these cheaper keepers, when you go for that, you just perma-play the keeper. You perma-play them. You don't rotate them because otherwise you'll miss the monster haul. And so I wonder whether it's the same logic with the defenders where we should just perma-play them. Because you don't want to miss the monster haul. So I'm kind of leaning that way a little bit, but I'm open to benching a player every now and then for a really difficult game. Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, especially Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. Well, Arsenal and Man City, they're not that likely to get DEFCONs anyway in those games either. But maybe not Liverpool. Yeah. That is all my thoughts. I'm going to stop talking now because that's too much thinking. Yeah, okay, I'll leave it there. Long one. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.